to me, the solution that funded the agency for the first 3 years was consulting. So consulting is the magic bullet. So when you run SEO, you're going to have content costs, you're going to have link costs, you're going to have technical software. When you do consulting, there's kind of an agreement, hey, we're going to pay you for your expertise, not so much for your deliverables. And that's a much easier business model.
All right, welcome to Hack to the Future with Kyle Roof. I am Kyle Roof, and today we have the co-founder of Compare Forex Brokers and the co-founder of Alley, Justin Grossbard. Justin, thanks for being here.
Nice to be here. Nice to see you again, Kyle.
Great seeing you as always. Justin, you're a good time. We've met a few times at some conferences, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. In Chiang Mai, and you'll be nice enough to come to Sydney, and you'll be coming again next year. So
yeah. So
what's to see you present again?
We'll be grabbing a drink soon, I imagine. Now, Justin, you're an actual marketer. Like before you got into digital marketing, you did, I think, actual marketing. And do you think that has given you an edge? And what I mean by that is I consider myself an SEO, which I think is a sneak through the back door kind of a way into marketing. I guess the main question is, are you better than me? Is that?
Oh, well, yeah, it's really interesting because I've met a lot of agencies, especially over the past 12 months, and you know, the ethos of an agency is quite tribalism. So certainly at Alley, our agency is marketers, and when we hire someone, we basically go, which undergraduate or postgrad did you do? Did you do marketing? And then I met agencies where, do you have a tech degree? Do you have IT? It's a completely different way of looking at the problem. It's quite interesting because you're saying who's better. Well, what I would say is, which way is the algorithm favoring? Because lately, everyone that says if you want to win an SEO, you've got to be a marketer. You need to have a brand. It's a completely different subset. Now, there's a group of people that feel very uncomfortable having those conversations, and they're leaving the industry. Whereas there's another group, which I would say is probably more the marketers, which are trying to grow brands. I've always thought this way, and maybe that does give them an advantage. But it's the algorithm. It may change next year. So right now, I think that Google is favoring brands. They're favoring marketers. But of course, that could completely change next year. Who knows?
It is interesting because a lot of people are getting into, like, I've heard more SEOs say, like, share of voice and reach and terms like that I'm confident they were not saying before. This move towards Google's brand awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with technical SEO is a very sexy thing, especially on LinkedIn, Twitter. And look, there's no doubt there's wins in technical SEO. A lot of people say, oh, look, I did this to Shopify, did X, Y, Z. But my question is that going to give you long-term success for a website? Or is it just a way to go up a tier, but then you're stuck there without then being able to do additional functions and think as a marketer, think about content, think about the brand direction, the followers, and all these elements. So certainly I'm not, there's a place for everyone in SEO. There's a place for you, Carl, of course, but at the same time, you would, just that more holistic thinking. That's why I've always believed in hiring marketers, that they can see the problem. And I'll give you a little treat today, okay? Yeah. So I always ask the same question. Hopefully no one that I'm about to hire hears this, but it's always the same question. And the question is, you're entering a university and I'm your lecturer. You sit down, it's your first class, and I say, okay, we have a group assignment. It's groups of 4. Okay, this is worth 50%. How would you deal with it from now? So, Carl, what do you think? Why do you think I'm asking that question? What do I want to hear from that person? Do you want to take a guess at what the right answer is?
I don't know. Are you looking for how they're going to organize and manage from the start?
Exactly.
How they're going to prepare?
What I want to hear is pick the right people. That's the problem. Some people, I'd say 75% of people will talk about the process, the project management, and they'll go from that point on. But the problem is the start, and that's your team. that's your problem. You got a bad team, you got no chance. So and that's what I think kind of that, university marking, that problem solving skill that hopefully is taught at uni or that person had. And of course, you don't have to do a marketing degree. Some people just naturally have this type of problem and they can read the room and read the problem. But that's what SEO, I view SEO as a problem. And that problem changes based on whatever Google decides it's going to go. And I'm looking for people that can solve that problem and are willing to roll up their sleeves and do it.
Does this mean I can get a job at your agency?
Well, it depends what your group is, Carl. I want to see the group first, see who you're working with, and then we'll make that decision.
Fair enough. Now, I know in your journey you talk about that when you were kind of getting off in marketing, that you kind of were immediately handling some high-stake clients, high-stake accounts. When you started that, did you feel that you were ready to kind of hit the ground running, or did you feel kind of a way it was kind of like a fake it till you make it sort of a scenario? Like how did you progress, or how did you approach that when you're taking on these huge accounts at such like a beginning part of your career?
Completely fake it. I mean, there's no other way to it. So I went from the UK managing a Google Ads account, maybe £5,000 a month, to go into managing a client like ANZ, which is one of the big four banks in Australia, which has spent $500,000.
Yeah.
So completely, and the funny thing is the rules are always the same. It may be in SEO, it's probably a bit different versus a WordPress versus a Shopify, etc. But a Google Ads account is a Google Ads account. Well, at least it was 15 years ago. But of course, just the scale of it, the complexity, the client management, the politics, the bureaucracy. So it was completely, I'm going from just a one-dimensional in-house role to an agency with large clients, large problems, politics, internal, external. And I just remember my head was like, I've never learned more every day, because you have to. It's evolve or perish. And that's the key thing in life, is sometimes you get these scenarios, you just roll up your sleeves, bite your tongue, and get through it, and you'll be better for what it was. But I can tell you, by 5 p.m. on Friday, I was absolutely spent, and it was just purely exhausting weeks, but loved every minute of it, because obviously I knew I was learning. I knew I was getting to the level that I was needed, and and I absolutely just loved that role.
I also know that part of your journey was getting let go from an in-house agency, and then that is kind of then where you got into running your own agency. My question would be, when you were let go, was your natural thought like, all right, I'm branching out on my own, like the next logical step is my thing? Or were you thinking like, or was this maybe like a last resort? Like, I can't go back into this, or I really don't like these opportunities and I must do this. Like, in that scenario, like how did you go from that position of in-house, not working there anymore, and then getting into your own agency?
Sure. So the thing about being fired is you don't see it coming. And I was in that role for 2 months, and I have a strong belief that if you leave a role, you should always, unless it's a completely different industry, you need to earn more money. And the reason why is because you don't know what you're walking into, and there's every chance that 2 months later you're going to be unemployed. So I call it danger money. That's what you're moving for, because you just don't know. This role looked perfect on paper. I didn't know who was going to be reporting to me. It was a disaster. So I had no plans, and here I am licking my wounds, feeling sorry for myself, and trying not to make a knee-jerk reaction. And it was one of the people that one of the clients that I worked for, the digital manager had got a new role, and he called up my mobile, and he said, "Can you do my Google Ads for me?" And I'm like, "Well, I probably could, but I don't work at this agency anymore." He says, "Does it matter? You're running the account." And I'm like, "Probably not. Let me get back to you." And you wouldn't believe it. 2 days later, another call from another person, and that was my first 2 clients. So
Sure.
the idea, to an extent, had come to me, like these, and it was just fantastic timing to have those 2 clients. But a lot of agencies don't work out, and I'm sure we'll go into it. But those 2 clients were not going to pay my wage. That's for sure. So, it is very tough starting an agency, and it really requires some innovation if you're going to succeed in that early period.
I mean, being in a sense gifted to clients like that because they wanted to work with you is fantastic. And the one thing that I've noticed when you start, one of the appeals of starting an agency is you really don't have a lot of cost until you have a client, which kind of allows you to get off the ground quickly because then you can, as you get that client, you get that monthly retainer, then you can get the resources kind of to service them. If you got those two clients, did that give you some like starting cash, if you will, to be able to fund to grow that kind of instantly?
No, it didn't. So,
No.
two clients spending $40,000 a month Google Ads. I'm making $4,000. What does that work out to? We're up to $52,000 that I'm making. It's paying some of my wage. There are still costs. I had to hire an office and a few things. And that's the key trap that I think is if I just get 3 clients, I've paid my wage. It doesn't quite work that well. And, to me, the solution that funded the agency for the first 3 years was consulting. So consulting is the magic bullet. So when you run SEO, you're going to have content costs, you're going to have link costs, you're going to have technical software. When you do consulting, there's kind of an agreement, hey, we're going to pay you for your expertise, not so much for your deliverables. And that's a much easier business model to have. The key thing is, if you're being hired as a consultant, you've got to think out of the box because they're hiring you to come up with new ideas, to come up with something different from what they can. Otherwise, they'll just use an agency. So I guess that was my big break, was when one of the largest health insurers, which was my third client, I approached them. They said, we already have an agency. But they said, you know what? We think you could come up with a few ideas, so we're going to pay you as a consultant. And that was a 5-figure sum each month. We're going to pay you to come up with ideas, and we're going to give you a bit of leeway to see if you can kind of drive an ROI, which other people can't. So it's effectively been employed as being an employee. You're being hired to do hours, and much more profitable. That was a catapult for the agency that could build off. Not those first few clients, it was a consultancy amount that got me there.
With the consultancy contract, is it we'll pay you X amount for X amount of hours? Is that kind of how that goes?
Yes, roughly. But there was the understanding that they're going to pay me to fix their problems. And I said to you, SEO is a problem. And, the key problem here was that they were doing the exact same thing that every other health insurer was doing. They were buying Google Ads, sending it to their health insurance website. They were doing SEO, sending it to a product landing pages and converting. And and when you're playing by the same rules as everybody else, it's very tough to make margin. To make a margin, it's very tough to get a competitive advantage. And I was a consultant for 6 months, and I was an absolute failure because I had a ton of books, a ton of ideas that I would hand to them, and nothing will get done. So you say, tweak this, make this. And what I realized is that unless I take things into my own hands, I'm going to lose this contract. And that's what got me into the comparison space, was because I realized that unless I actually own my own areas where I send traffic to, whether that's paid or SEO, it's going to take a long time. There's going to be less flexibility. And that got me down my journey of, first of all, making my first comparison site for this health insurance, and then making about 10 comparison sites since.
That kind of gets into, I think, something that you talk about quite a bit, where you are of the opinion that an agency shouldn't just be an agency, but should also be running its own affiliate sites. And in this case, you run these comparison sites. In addition to what you said, where like when you're consulting and you can control an asset, essentially, that then you're feeding to maybe a particular client, what other benefits do you see from that, from kind of that dual approach where you are an agency but also a full-time affiliate essentially as well?
Sure. Well, so I like people that have a side hustle, which is normally going to be an affiliate site or e-commerce site. It can be whatever your passion is, as long as there is a financial benefit. There's no point. I mean, who doesn't? We don't need another travel site with a travel blogger that has some banner ads. That's not, it's you've got to have some commercial intent. But I've learned the hard way that you've also got to have a passion. So I started this fast business loan website called Fast Business Loans, and I just did it to make a buck. And I had no interest in business loans. It's not a glamorous industry. I didn't believe in it. The interest rates are high, and it failed because it wasn't a passion project. But
Mm.
when you have a passion project, what that allows you to do, which of course makes money, is it's a true test because there are very few, if any, niches where there aren't other smart people that are also you're in competition with. So that means that you need to do SEO better. You need to do conversion rate better. And only by forcing yourself and testing yourself do you get better. And nothing annoys me more in our industry than the person that gets up at Chain My SEO and says, I can rank for any keyword. I just choose to only rank for these ones. And all I think about is if you can rank for any keyword, where's your comparison site? Where's your side hustle? Like,
Yeah.
surely you can run with that and do it yourself. And it doesn't make sense if you can't. So either you can't, which of course is a cross. You shouldn't be doing SEO in the first place. You're not motivated to, which again it's another big cross on my. And or the third one is that you're scared of doing it, and you're scared of. So I'd love to see more people do it. Obviously, the helpful content update's been pretty devastating within the industry, and that's a real shame. But nothing makes me happier than seeing people with successful side hustles. They don't have to be terribly successful, but at least it shows to me that they're having a go. And what it allows you to do, it allows you to learn from your mistakes. It allows you to push yourself, and you can never say, well, that person said no. And look, I spend more on my side hustles on link building than any one of my clients, which are 100 times bigger than my
Mm.
side hustles. And that's because I don't look at every link invoice and double check and think, is this a good investment? I know it's a good investment. I know the value of what I'm trying to do, and it just gets signed off. I know what a good content writer is, and it just gets signed off. So all this bureaucracy and all these frustrations that may limit an SEO person's success. Well, you don't have those. Your only problem is yourself. So what's limiting you from doing it? And and I'm just really upset because I know so many people with great potential working for other companies, doing things, and they're just not willing to go outside their comfort zone and try things for themselves. And I think back yourself, have a go. You can keep your job, always keep your job. That's what a side hustle is. The last thing you want to do is put all your eggs in that one basket. But at the same time, prove to yourself and test yourself and show that you can beat other people in your industry with your side hustle versus that. So I think it's a really good way to test yourself and be able to talk to other people that are doing the same thing.
How do you approach things about like management of time and budget and resources and focus when you're like when is it that the side hustle could become problematic in a sense of like taking away from the hustle?
Yeah. So, and that's the discipline that you absolutely have to have. You absolutely have to go, this is, I'm being paid and this is my work time. And you specify that very closely. And then I've got a family. So then you'll go, okay, and this is my non-negotiable family time. And then you say, and this is my side hustle time. So for me, my side hustle time is between 7:30 and 9:30 most weekdays, and on the weekends, depending on how it goes. Once again, the whole family needs to understand, and the wife needs to be appreciative of what you're doing and the sacrifices that you're going to make. And I think that is the pure discipline, because the key thing about having the side hustle is that, so in my space, one of my spaces, Forex brokers, which is probably one of the most competitive, in the world. And there's, I say every year there'd be 20 new competitors, and they all start off the gate amazingly. Like, I can see what they do. They get a few things that we're all missing. They write lots of content. They write a new broker review every week. They're constantly evolving. They're reaching out, and then you start seeing that effort, and it starts going down and down, and then they just give up. And then they try to sell you the site, and it's a really sad story. So you get the hump people, and then you get the erratic people, and I'm that person that I don't go and burn out. I'm not that cool, consistent, and I've been doing Forex for 10 years in that cool, consistent formula. And I'd say it's just like gym. Okay, let's just say that a side hustle is gym, and I do try to fit in gym lately, which is a tricky one. But gym's the morning thing, not to just do the side hustle thing. But it's the same with gym, okay? So gym is all about discipline. How many people go in spring, go for a month, and then they give up? Oh, people that will go for 3 months, they're not getting the gains, they're not getting the women, and they just give up again. So the guys that are, really in great shape and really, looking fantastic, they'll all be the modest ones. Oh, I very rarely go to the gym. But the truth is they've been going to the gym for several years. They've been absolutely consistent, and they've probably got a few smart apps to continually push themselves, and rather than just coast through it, they're constantly trying to research. They're constantly trying to see how they can do better. They might see someone else that's in a great shape and say, how do you do it? Teach me a few things. That's SEO. It's exactly the same thing. And they're making the time. They've allocated the time. So my viewpoint is gym only works in the morning, because I will wake up in the morning on most days the same time, same mood, etc. If you try to do it at night, and you don't know how your day's going to go, and you don't know how you're going to feel or what's going to happen, and you get that variability at night where suddenly, I'm tired, or this and this. So for me, as I said, gym is a morning thing. But at night time, with the discipline of 7 to 9, I can do that. I can, and once again, discipline is making spreadsheets for yourself. So on those tight days, you say, hey, this is what I'm going to do today, and I like this. I like Forex. I actually like the industry. I like the people. I believe in it, and therefore I'm motivated to do it. Fast business loss. I just had a bad day at the agency. I'm exhausted. I had a big lunch. My wife and, my cats made some poo on the carpet. Everyone at the agency will laugh at that. And I'm having a bad day. I don't want to write about past business loans and do anything. I don't like these people. I don't like the industry. I don't believe in it. It was always going to die. So that's the balance. And of course it makes me some money. And money is fun, because you can take it away. It's also fun because you can buy things. You can buy all these SEO goodies that you may, need authorization or have some just, oh, look, there's a new software. I'll just buy it and try it. I'll try this, I'll try that. So with you being your own boss, it's a lot of fun. Now, I'll say one more thing, if you don't mind, and that is that, so Forex, the reason why Forex for me has been successful versus some other ventures is my business partner, Noam. He's the opposite of me, and I think that's a very good thing. So he's the guy that likes doing finance. He's the guy that likes doing deals to get us better commissions. He's the guy that likes looking at the how we're going and talking to me about these discussions. I'm the marketer. I'm the guy that just likes looking at my rankings, looking at my traffic, trying to grow it, trying to see the vision and all that. So that is motivational, because some of the other side hustles, I don't want to invoice. I don't want to chase up for people that aren't paying. That's demotivational for me. So I think that is part of if you're going to have a business partner, and I would say that you really need to think that through, if that's the right decision, because it can cause a lot of grief if it's done the wrong way. I would say do not hire someone too similar to yourself. hire someone that likes doing the things that you don't like doing, and it's going to work out great. But if you get two marketers in a room, I just can't see that working out too well.
Um, all right, I've got one more question for you. I've heard that you've had former staffers go on to create and sell their own companies, and I think it might be the side hustle became the main hustle, sort of a scenario, perhaps. How does that make you feel when that happens?
Oh, I was delighted. And the beauty of a side hustle exit for a person in an agency is it doesn't happen overnight. Unlike a person that just leaves for an in-house or to another agency, they're going to give you 1 or 2 months notice and you lose them. This side hustle was evolving. It was making him money. It was taking, so rather than it be a sudden exit, it was a transition. So it was one of the easiest transitions because we could slowly and be open about, okay, now it's taking 2 days a week. Now it's taking three. Now I need to exit. But it was a slow transition. And so in this example, I would say one of the best places to get an idea for a side hustle is working at an agency. So in this case, we had a person that worked, that a client of ours that was in the hearing aid space. And we could basically look under the hood, and this person was a hearing aid provider. And this person who worked for me, he has a health family, doctors, etc. So he had a natural passion this area, and he's like, you know what, this is an enormously profitable area. Do you know the amount of costs for a hearing aid, the margins? Nobody, how do you know which hearing aid is right for you? Well, you can go to an audiologist. But outside of that, there was no literature. There is no comparison. There is no features. So he saw the opportunity in the market, and he chose to run with it with a friend, and I was delighted. And they have me just talk over. Unfortunately, they didn't take all my advice, such as their branding. They had to rebrand because I said their first name. I'm like, no one's going to be able to say that. No one understands. And sure enough, no one understood it 1 year later, and they had to do the whole rebrand. So and that's the key thing, is that this person, he had to make his own mistakes. So you try. It's like, I've made these mistakes, but sometimes no matter how much you try to help people, they have to make it for themselves, and maybe that makes them better, or maybe it just makes them a bit poorer along the journey. But he left the agency, made a hearing aid comparison site, and then sold it about 3 or 4 years later to a hearing aid provider who bought him out. And that was his whole strategy all along was he saw the gap. He's like, I'm going to exit to these people. And he did that. And as I said, I've never been prouder. It was a great achievement. The skills he learned was in the agency, and he backed himself. And but these stories, unfortunately, are just too rare. Well, at least in the Australian space, and I wish they were more often, because the skills that we learn in agencies, whether that's SEO, and there's, when you're working for an agency like Ellie, we do social. We do social, paid, and SEO. And to me, those are the three things that just work at the end of it. They're the results orientated. No, if an SEO person says, I want to learn how to do Google Ads, they're not going to be stopped. Same with social media, etc. So it's a great breeding ground for the skills to really start any sort of online business. I just think that I think that the two things that are stopping people is, one, they don't feel they've got the time, or they're not willing to sacrifice. And the other, the fear of failure of, hey, I'm going to lose a lot of time outside of my hours. I look at Justin, he's got a family and he's sacrificing his hours, and I just don't want to do it. So that's number one. Or the other one is that it's worried it's not going to work, and just that fear, it's going to cost me a bit of money, and I'm going to have nothing to show me. And that's always failure is always a risk. But as you will know, Carl, failure, you get, it helps you in some ways. As long as it doesn't cost you too much time or money, you're probably going to learn from that experience. And it's your side hustle. You didn't lose your job. It's your side hustle again. And you probably learn a lot on the way. So I just think that certainly another person who has an agency, he used to be a side hustle man. It made him the person he is today. And I just wish I could see this more often occur, because their success, I think, there should be more awards in these ceremonies for people that have done affiliates, that have made it. But what I find is that, you introduced me, Justin from Compare Forex Brokers. When we go to change my SEO, everyone seems to be scared to say what their side hustle is. Everyone's worried about, I don't know, copying. How many times do you see on Twitter, case studies of this, but always the name is always blurred out? I guess as a failure that people are going to take you on for comment. And maybe if you find a new niche, absolutely, I wouldn't. But I'll tell you what, Forex isn't a new secret. As I said, there's no new secret. Credit cards aren't a secret. Crypto. So if you're going for it, I don't understand, hiding what you're doing. Maybe if you're doing something that, you're buying links and you're doing these things and you're open about that. Yeah, of course, you don't want to raise to, but if you're trying to do things in a legitimate way and you believe in the business, I think people should be more proud of it and talk about it. But I seem to be the minority.
Well, Justin, this was awesome. Great insights. Love to hear the story. I really appreciate it. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So I'd say, why don't you try my personal email address, which is my surname, Grossbard, GROSSBARD, at gmail.com. That's the best way, whether you want to talk to me about a side hustle, Forex trading, you're interested in joining an agency, or all these elements, come and have a talk to me. And definitely, the key thing, just going on a little side thing, is that I think, a lot of people like Carl and me, we're happy to talk to anyone. And that's a genuine thing. Someone is thinking about starting a side hustle, and they say, we're willing to make time and just talk to people over lunch or whatever. And what I'm just finding is that some people aren't, especially younger people. And I think that's a massive loss, because there's always time. Someone, I said, let's have a catch on. They said, look, I got a new dog and I'm a bit busy, and maybe next year. I was like, hey, I just said over lunch, and let's just have a chat. I'm interested to hear. So there's always time. And that's a true thing. Maybe a few weeks later. But as I said, find the time, do a lunch, do a morning tea, that's normally with the SEO community, I find very, very helpful. There's some great people there that are always willing to give their time. And I just wish there'd be more, younger people that would do that as well, and share their expertise, and they'd find it's more rewarding, and they'll learn more along the journey.
Yeah, that's a big thing. As you help others, you really do learn a lot as well. It's a very useful way to give back. Well, again, Justin, thanks so much. Thanks everyone for listening to Hack to the Future, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.